just recently we had a potential client call us to set up a consult. And they called and were talking about the fact that they had a TBI, traumatic brain injury, and they did not know that we actually had worked with that. They'd been to other places and then discovered us and called and spoke to Erica, and Erica said, yes, this is something we handle. And they'd been looking for us but did not know that we had worked with that particular disability. And it got me thinking of how many disabilities we have worked with and handled, and how many you may not know that we have worked with over the last 24 years. So I thought it'd be a good idea to discuss with our Director of Sport Medicine, Gary Zakutny, the variety of disabilities and rehabilitation that we have done here at Personalized Fitness today on the Personalized Fitness Podcast. Good day and welcome to the Personalized Fitness Podcast. My name is Garrett Williamson. I'm president of Personalized Fitness. Thank you so much for joining us today, talking about the different disabilities, different rehab, and different conditions that we've come across. And today on my show, first time on the show, amazingly enough, is our Director of Sport Medicine, Gary Zakutny. Gary, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's about time you asked.
No kidding, man. It's hard to track you down. You got too much going on, pal. Before we get into this, I want to tell you how to get in touch with the show if you have any questions about this particular subject or any others, or as always, if you have any questions about dispelling the myths of health, fitness, and wellness, please feel free to reach out to me at Garrett, Garrett, at personalizedfitness.com. That's my email address. Even easier to get in touch with us, give us a call at 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach out to us on our website at personalizedfitness.com. Facebook, Personalized Fitness. Hit me up on X or Twitter at Team PE if you are so inclined. As I said in the intro, I was talking about the fact that we got a call a couple weeks ago about a TBI, about a traumatic brain injury.
Traumatic brain injury.
And I was amazed that this particular potential client of ours, now client of ours, had actually gone a couple of places because they didn't know that anybody handled that. And then evidently did some research on our website, contacted Erica, and found out, wow, y'all work with this. And that just got me thinking, we need to do a podcast and let people know what we're doing. So I talked to Gary about it and told him, we tried to kind of cobble together a list. I bet after this we're going to think of, 20 other things that we do.
Oh, sure.
But starting with the easiest stuff. I mean, I don't mean to say easy because if you have one of these conditions, it's tough for you. We say easy because we see a lot of it. I mean,
that's right. You just see plenty of them.
Yeah, hypertension. I mean, high blood pressure.
That's right.
I couldn't tell you how many hypertensive clients that we have.
I mean, daily.
I mean, exactly. That's probably 9 of the last 10 consults I've done has that. Hypertension, rotator cuff. What would you say? Actually, I say that all the time. But what would you say is the most common affliction, injury like that we see?
I would say just acute-wise, just newness-wise, I'd say muscle strains, ankle sprains, trip and fall, or something like that we're probably constantly having to work through, either modifying or going ahead and being proactive with it. Right. Some of the longer-lasting stuff would be long-lasting tendonitis, maybe a rotator cuff tear, old rotator cuff tear. See a lot of those. See a lot of old neck injuries, that kind of stuff. Some knees, as far as cartilage damage and that kind of stuff. But
if we got really simple about it, I mean, muscle pulls.
Yeah, muscle pulls probably number one.
Probably number one. As far as that goes. I don't mean to. We don't take it lightly.
That's right.
I don't mean that,
right.
but it's like breathing.
Sure.
To us as far as those kind of injuries are concerned. Now, you get a little more advanced, and you go, well, I mean, I don't even think that this is super advanced, but a medial meniscus tear. It's something to, there's some concerns there.
Yeah, it's something that you have to pay attention to, potentially maybe work around a little bit, but you can still attack just like anything else with it as well.
Right. Well, also that would be one of the ones that, well, of course you get a history on all of it, but that would be one you would dive into the history. Was it repaired?
That's right.
Did you have something
right.
like that?
What you have to do a lot of times, we'll be able to call the physician or a physical therapist that may or may not have referred them in the first place. A lot of it in that case is kind of what I call the return to play. Is getting them back to whatever their level of wellness is, whatever their goals are, that kind of stuff, and pushing them through to that next phase.
Well, and I speak about that not being a big deal because I have an medial meniscus tear myself.
That's right.
And when it first happened, I switched sports and I went into
the world ended.
Exactly. I mean, I'm having a conversation with my brother. Gary knows my brother really well. In fact, we've done races together. And told my brother, and I said, I thought that my training for nationals and worlds was over until I found aquabike. And then we addressed it and said, no, this is not the end of the world. And just this week, you put together a sprint program for me.
So get you back running
not
again.
That big a deal. But before we get into the more advanced stuff that we handle, and you brought up something a minute ago. You're talking about contacting the physician and getting a history on it. Take us through. This happens all the time with you. I mean, you're the head athletic trainer of a local high school here, on top of being here and being head of our sport medicine. But there's a lot of not only clients, but clients' relatives, and also just people we know that come in and have an evaluation done. Take us through just a basic. What are your steps to assessing an injury?
Sure. I mean, and each one is kind of individual, I guess, a little bit too. But one thing, I guess, doing it for all these years, I mean, it's been 24 years now, I guess.
Yeah.
You come in contact with a lot of people. So a lot of people are, maybe they can't get into the physician right away, or they just have something small or something like that. And so we'll bring them in, and either Kaylee or I, Kaylee now has joined the staff, so she can help with it too. But it's just basically a sideline evaluation. It's the same thing you would see if you're watching a sporting event and somebody walks off and you see the little person either run out there or they show them on the sideline doing manual muscle tests and ligament tests and that kind of stuff. Just kind of getting a baseline. Just that's really kind of like a history, and history is included in it too. Right. But then we'll know where to go from there. Do we need to do they need to get an X-ray or something like that, MRI, or is it something that's just take a couple of days off and that kind of thing. Right. And so then we'll just basically, based on what we see, we'll kind of evaluate them and shoo them in which direction we think that they need to go.
And that can include, I mean, because you've had people come in here and do this, and we don't play outside the lines.
No.
There are things that with your background, degree, and certification, that you could do if you're working under a PT's care or physician's care with them.
That's right. I'm licensed in the state of Alabama to do it.
Exactly. Now, and some of those things that you have to do under a PT's care, you don't do here because we're not under a PT's care. But doing an evaluation like that is something that's very normal that you do.
That's every day.
And it's not unheard of. I've seen you do it before where you're like, yep, this is not in our territory. You need to go straight to an orthopedist, I can help you get set up with one.
That's right. We can fast track them into whoever we need to get them into and that kind of stuff. Now even orthopedics are starting to kind of specialize, and so certain orthopedics want certain things. It started with a back physician who they only wanted to see backs and that kind of stuff, and now you get more. They may like foot or ankle. They may like shoulder. They may like elbow, wrist, and hand or something like that. And so they're using their advanced degrees to even super specialize in certain things to where they're up to date on the latest and greatest.
And I thought that was crazy. It's funny you say that because now that's normal. But I'll never forget when I was back in '93 when I was coaching diving. I had a diver, and her father was an orthopedist. I think he's retired now, named Ben Freeman, and he was hand. I mean, that's what he did. Not that he didn't know anything about knees or whatever, but he specialized in hand.
Sure.
And couldn't believe it now. I mean,
now
all the different.
I mean, all specialized. At the very beginning of my career, there was more broad-based, general orthopedic, orthopedic sports medicine is what they would call it, or something like that. And now it's like, oh no, you send this to this one, kind of thing.
That conversation that takes place when I see you, because so many times I've shadowed you watching you do evaluations, and usually if it's with a client, of course, we're going to have the exercise specialist there with you, seeing what's going on, so then you'll make recommendations to them. But the conversation that happens, there may be a leg and you're about to do some kind of a stretch, but as soon as sometimes before you put your hands on them, okay, what happened?
That's right.
That's that history.
You got to know. Yeah, you got to know what happened first, and a lot of times, honestly, you can tell. Pretty much already know where I'm going as soon as I hear the history, whether it be a fall or what, or this has been bugging me for 6 months and now I'm just going to say something or something like that. will usually, I mean, I feel like that is just as important as when I put my hands on somebody, if not more important.
Right. And you know, there was any physicians that went through University of Alabama Med School, and some of them that didn't, some of the older ones that didn't, knew this individual. As a building name for him at the Alabama Med School, his name was Tinsley Harrison, Dr. Tinsley Harrison. And the reason I know this is something my father said over and over and over again. He was taught by Tinsley Harrison, and he said that if you listen to a patient long enough, they'll tell you what's wrong with them. Mm-hmm. And that's what I see you doing a lot of times.
Yeah, that's right. Doc Anderson was my mentor up in Troy, and that's what he said. He said, you can't do anything unless you get a good history.
Right.
And I mean, he hammered it in on us day one.
Sure.
They had a little open clinic up in Troy where they would see local kids or whatever on a Monday, and that's all I did as a student athletic trainer was just taking history, asking them and just learning how to ask, what to ask,
exactly
that kind of stuff, because they'll tell you what's wrong with them.
Right. I think that's amazing. It's amazing how it goes spans not only in what you do with the evaluations, but all the way into medicine and what have you. But when we get back to we mentioned what I call the easy stuff, and it's probably not nice to say it that way.
I know.
But it's because acute. There we go. Acute. And we see acute day in and day out.
That's right. Yes.
You know, I would love to know how many acutes that you're dealing with today, and you probably have to think about it for a while.
I just had one phone call right before I came in.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, but then we get into there's over our 24-year history of what we've handled. I mean, I years ago I had 2 clients. Both of them had one lung. Mm-hmm. You know, that's one thing. We've had a client that has it's a particular kind of a heart condition concern there. Am I right about that? Young client that you're working with right now. She's a neighbor of mine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think that was right.
She did, but it actually caused a stroke.
Oh wow!
So she had a fallacy in her aorta that threw a clot. They were up at the hunting camp.
Wow!
And thankfully, now here we are. So that was right before Thanksgiving of 23. And actually, she just sent another video. She's been running now. She's back to running again. So she's awesome. She's a modern miracle,
right?
Too. Yeah, I mean, the speed that she's able to come back with. But she's been training with us for 12 years, probably 10 or 12 years, probably.
Yeah.
And so she was in great shape before. Just happened to have this little defect that caused all this, but now she's bounced right back. And that's one advantage of starting this young, starting this early, and continuing with it. I mean, she never missed. And so even though she had this event happen, she was able to recover quicker because of all the pre-training that she had done. Yeah, the
body was prepared and ready for something like that.
That's right.
Well, you mentioned stroke. That's something else we see quite a bit. So, and let's go even farther. Debilitating strokes where we had paralysis. Bob.
That's right.
Great example of that. So
yeah, and those are the kinds where we just have to figure out what they're able to do, and work through that part. You know, maybe little accommodations. Usually, it's some left side of weakness or something, and so we have some hooks to help them hold on, so we can work different muscle groups and that kind of stuff. But we also lots of stretching and that kind of stuff because they usually complain about being tight. But but a lot of it is just the progression, and you'll see the body will always accommodate to whatever load you put on it, and it may have a ceiling, but we don't ever know where that ceiling is, and so we just keep pushing until we get there.
And again, individualized.
That's right. Yeah. Each one of them, you could have 2 of the exact same injuries in general, and they're all gonna act different. They're gonna be different. You know, so especially as you get further up the difficulty chain.
Right. Well, with the background education we have with most qualified staff in the Southeast, this doesn't scare us when we hear it, but that's why that consult is so important. Not just the consult talk to us, but immediately they're going to go to you, they're going to go to Kaylee, and they're going to do what I say like a secondary consult, and that's when we get really deep into whatever the affliction may be.
That's right.
So because I don't think we've never had 2 stroke patients that have been the same.
No. I mean, everybody is kind of different when it comes to that, and a lot of times you never really know until you get them moving.
Right.
What it'll be. I mean, the new one that came in, I couldn't believe he had complete core strength, and most of the time a lot of them don't, but was very body aware and could balance and that kind of stuff. So
right.
And just got to take it on an individual basis.
And that's a recent TBI, traumatic brain injury. But the one that always comes to mind when I think of TBI is of course Murray.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was absolutely amazing.
Bad auto wreck, and then life-flighted to Birmingham. I want to say, if I remember correctly, pronounced dead.
I think at some point, I think he did.
Right, yeah.
At some point, I think he did.
And then a long process. Came to us originally in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Came to the consult in a wheelchair.
That's right.
Came to the first session in a wheelchair. And then I can never forget seeing him for the first time, waiting on his mother was coming to pick him up. And she saw him holding his walker walk around the corner.
That's right.
Holding his walker in the air.
That's right. He picked it up. He went all the way. He went all the way through.
Right. Exactly.
It was amazing. He was another one too, because I don't know if you remember, but he had been training for a marathon or something, sort of run, and had actually gotten in his car to go get a Gatorade because it was hot that day, and that's when he got in the wreck. So he was currently, had a great fitness level as well. It goes back to, that helps a bunch.
Very much
be
so.
able to recover.
Having that basis,
healthy lifestyle, healthy and fitness-based lifestyle helps recover. When bad things happen.
Very much. Well, we talk about that with another. This is not a debilitation by any means, but pregnancy.
That's right.
About
careful the way you say that.
Yeah, exactly. Very careful about the way I said that. So, especially not having kids. I already got a couple strikes against me. But we hear all the time having a healthy pregnancy and a healthy birth, and I hear it from countless of our clients and our trainers that have had children about how childbirth is never easy, but their process compared to some people that aren't as fit or whatever, and their recovery and what have you, much better because
that's right. Absolutely. I can still remember Kathy walking on the treadmill with Robbie, and I mean, she's belly up to the treadmill, and she was just going and going away, and I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, incredible. So I want to get into some of the other things, and mainly I want to make sure we mention this because, like I say, this individual that had contacted us looked over our website, but I don't know if they actually saw that particular fiction. So other things that you can think of. Now, the ones I can think of, like spinal fusions, and what do you know the most common spinal fusion we see? You have any idea?
I don't. We've got several that have right there, C5, C6.
Right. I know, like am I saying this right? L5S1.
Yeah, and then L5S1. Yeah, lower back.
Right.
But we've got a couple of upper neck too, which is challenging just because ability to turn your head, which if you drive a car you kind of need to be able to turn your head. So but a lot of L5S1, spondylolysis, little stress fractures, that kind of stuff.
Degenerative spine. Our most senior client currently originally came to me back in 1997, came to me and brought me his x-rays of his neck, and I have to remind him about that now, which I love. I love that.
That's right, absolutely.
94 years old, and I got to remind him.
That's when you know you're recovered, is when you say, "Wait, what was that?" or which side was it, or that kind of stuff. I said the day you forget about and have to like look down and see a scar or whatever. That's when you know you're there. Yeah, that's when you know you're there. That's right.
Love that. So,
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you've got that's in the back. What else are we missing?
Joint replacements, that kind of stuff. We've done tons of those. Knee replacements, hip replacements,
and prehab for it.
And prehab. Yeah, look at. I mean, Suzanne sings about prehab to everybody. Once again, it was that getting in that mindset before you actually have the surgery. Pulls you out, and you end up with a good outcome most of the time. And
she was a fantastic case example. Because of I want to say that she had not done the prehab on the first knee.
She didn't. And
then she did the prehab on the second knee, and it was a world of difference.
And her recovery was simple.
Right.
Yep. I mean, we have some just like that have had both knees done.
Yeah.
And she flew through it. She flew through it as well.
Right. Right. Bilateral hip replacement. We've had that. And we've also, like we're saying with Suzanne, we've had people come to us prior to, and they knew they were having a potential for a hip or a knee or something like that, and they were starting to work with us beforehand.
Right. That's right.
And in fact, I want to say that's been countless, not only in the facility but outside the facility. You've run into this far more than I have, and that is talking with somebody, working with somebody, and realizing, hey, look, you need a hip, and let me show you where to go.
Sure.
And because you know the people better than I do.
That's right. So that's right. That's right. I mean, we've even had so like Wayne, who's currently with us, he came in originally with a knee that he thought was going to need to be replaced, but that was how long? Wayne's been probably 4 or 5 years now.
Right.
And he gets an X-ray every year and has had no change whatsoever in it. So he's staving off, you know. He said, I surely would have had it by now if I hadn't been doing what he's been doing, strength training and that kind of stuff, just trying to maintain everything he can in there.
Yeah, that's the other thing we don't think about how many people come to us to try to avoid
That's right.
surgery, and this is a great case. And most surgeons will tell you that. You know, let's try our best not to.
That's right. If that's the end answer anyway, and that's what we're going to have. First, you want to be as strong as you can before, and you want to wait as long as you can.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, and speak about, you know, you've been on the athletic field now.
24 years.
24 years. So what do you see the most of out there? What is the question I'm not asking about that, as far as the experiences you have on injuries, on repair, and also the evolution you've seen 24 years now. You've seen not only the different rehab that you've come across, injuries you've come across, but you've also seen good strength programs.
Sure. I mean, that is completely different. I'll say one thing different. The main difference now is everybody is more aware, just in general, of you know, whether it's football head injuries or whatever. But they're also, the kids are more body aware, and the better athletes are even ultra aware, which makes my job a lot easier, because they can tell me down to the millimeter where exactly this hurts and when exactly it does.
Oh, wow.
Because they've analyzed it, you know, that closely or whatever. And you get Google in there too, so they're able to actually look up and see, you know, a skeleton and that kind of stuff. So I'm not having to. I remember at the beginning I had those little models or whatever of the knees and all, and now you don't have to do that anymore because they've already Googled it. So it's
amazing.
They see a 3D model now, you know.
This one from your incredible program at Troy, which I know Troy has a fantastic. It's amazing. We're blessed with some really good sport medicine programs.
It really is
in
good in this area.
Troy is fantastic. So it went from Dr. Anderson, you're doing the histories, now it's going down to the patients themselves.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then coaches are much more aware because of everything too. So they've really kind of, talk about specializing, they've really kind of let specialized people do it. Is, you know, the old days the coach would run the weight room and that kind of stuff, and now there's actual people that run the weight room. They have strength and conditionings even down on the high school level and that kind of stuff. I mean, we've gotten a bunch in the middle school. It hadn't trickled down quite to the elementary level, but it's coming there, and eventually they will.
Just talk about a little bit about this now. You head up our sport medicine, been with us going on 17 years, am I right?
That's right.
And then, but you know, even while you were here, and in between you were here, whatever, we had, you know, Rob Longhurst, Chris Oakley, Lindsey Smith. You know, we've had quite a few, and got Kaylee on stuff now. But you're working with a team here, and you don't train all the rehab here by any means.
Nor should I. Just like anything, you need a variety.
Right. Break down how you go about that, though, because you've got to get this information to. You're working with exercise specialists that have kinesiology degrees, but go into a little bit about that. How do you get that information across?
It's more of a behind the table, I guess, discussion. Is a lot of times we'll come up here or just via phone call if I'm on the road or whatever. But really it's kind of letting them know what their limitations are going to be. Right. You know, like they may or may not be able to do a certain movement, but then giving them the freedom to work. Right. Like you can do anything else you want to do. You know, just maybe they can't squat all the way to the floor or whatever. Maybe they can't squat past 90 degrees or something like that. So figure out a way to do, like with the young man here that just came in or whatever, he was able to get on all fours, hands and knees and control it, that kind of thing. I said, that's a great start because you're 4 points of contact, you know, and so giving them that little bit of information, but not hindering. I don't want to hinder them enough and put them in such a little rabbit hole that it is like me training them because they see it completely differently. The exercise specialists in particular see it completely differently because they're thinking about the muscles and what can we push and that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what do we need to hold back on? What do we need to modify? You know, that kind of stuff. So basically I just kind of give them the modifications and then let them run with it. And we've had great results from it. But great feedback too of all the different challenges and that kind of stuff.
This speaks to it speaks to our system. Gary's not only director for sport medicine; he's one of our directors, and he's a client coordinator. So he's got a list of clients that he's responsible for that he may train, may not train, but he's setting. And what you're hearing him talk about, you're hearing talking about setting up the protocol, but you hear what he's talking about. You don't try to spoon feed it.
That's right. That's right.
You're going to limit the trainer.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. I want them to have do whatever they want to be able to do within certain factions when it comes to the injured type or something like that. You know, we don't want to make an injury worse, whether it's acute or chronic injury. We don't want to inflame it, but we want to be able to push to the limit. So I kind of set that I kind of set that cruise control and then let them do whatever they want to do from there. We've
listed a lot of things. We still have labrum. I don't think we've talked about labrum tears. We've seen that. Cancer.
That's right.
Which a lot of people don't understand that prepping for a mastectomy, prepping for any kind of surgery with that, we're coming back from that. That's another big thing. There's a whole laundry list of stuff that, like I said, we're going to talk about later that we've forgotten. So, but in that, is there? You haven't seen it all yet. And I don't know that when you retire your career, if you'll see it all.
I don't know that I want to see it all.
Anything that you're scared is going to come through the door that you don't want to see?
I don't think there's – I mean, we've had so many that, can walk, can't walk. Some that are – I mean, we have one lady right now that's a walking train wreck of orthopedic issues, just bad luck after bad luck, arthritis type stuff, that kind of stuff. But, no, I don't think there's anything that we can't handle. And actually I kind of like the more complicated anyway because, it gets the brain moving. And so
I remember, and I don't remember the client. You may remember the client, but this was early on. But because I always say that what attracts people, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but attracts people with your degree to come and actually be a personal trainer, because it's not really something you discussed when you were Troy.
It wasn't in the realm of possibilities at the time. I just liked fitness.
Yeah. Well, but I think that and what I always say is that you get to actually do more than you typically get to see.
Absolutely.
But there was a client, and there was dexterity problems, and I think you came up
she
with
had
board
MS.
with
she had
nails
MS.
under or something?
That's right.
Yeah.
We had a little screw board, and she had to do it, and she complained about it every time as she was doing it. But that's okay. Different clays and that kind of stuff. Yeah, she had MS. That's one thing. That's one that we didn't talk about.
Oh
either.
Lord, we got two people that we're working with right now. Exactly the same situation.
Didn't even think about it.
So exactly. So we've got four people coming in with wheelchairs.
That's right.
Right now, and with a variety of different things going on.
That's right.
And what reason I brought that up, and the reason I brought up the board is that's something you made. You had to come up with something.
That's right.
And I've talked about this before. The reason people get into really any field, but especially this field, is a passion for it. And so that's why I was a little scared about asking that question about, are you scared about anything that comes in the door? But the way you seize on it as a challenge, I see that in Kaylee. I see that in all of our staff.
That's right.
And when you have a passion for it like that, we look forward to finding ways to make things work.
Sure, and that's why we do make things work, is because you can kind of think outside the box.
True.
It's not traditional. Some of it's traditional strength training and that kind of stuff, but I'd say the vast majority of what we did was not very traditional at all.
And actually that speaks to him as a father, and we're going to sum this up. But the reason I say that is that there was something you said about that, about either quit or can't or something you were always famous for saying with your kids. But I've forgotten what it was. But it just raising your kids, that wasn't part of the option.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's it. Yeah.
Look,
can't say can't.
Yeah, exactly. I may have
you can say won't.
Yeah, right.
You can say don't want to do it, but you cannot say the word
can't. That's what I'm saying.
That's exactly right.
That's how he approaches his therapy, definitely.
Right.
So, look, I appreciate you being on the show. We'll probably have you back on again and talk about some more of this. But listen, I know we didn't cover all of them. I'm sure that we'd like to say Gary and I could be here for a long time. If we had the whole staff up there, my gosh, we'd be here for hours. And about all the different limitations that we see and that we handle. It's something we look forward to. It's the reason we have the degrees on staff. It's the reason we have the relationship with the medical community that we have in Mobile, is that we don't want that to be a limitation when it comes to our training and working with people. And most importantly, we don't want it to be your limitation of reaching your level of wellness. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.